What is up, Oak Life Familia? It is Chris and Greg and Chris back at it again with another Roots and Branches. And today we are continuing the conversation, going deeper on the new conversation series topic of hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, look, I get crazy when the mic round. No sense of getting hyped now, but I'm...
What is up? We are back
What's
at
up?
it again. We're talking. Doing good, Chris? How you living over there?
Chilling.
That's
No
what's up.
major complaints. It's always something to complain about, but how
I
about you?
respect that. I got hit up by someone who was like, "Hey, Roots and Branches, 2:00. What's up?" I was like, "Oh, got to push back." So if you're checking in with us, yes, this is a new time, but not like a repeating time. It's kind of a one-off because life gotta stay flexible, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I'll
But
take credit for that. We had a childcare issue. Who hit you up? Who actually cares? Who watches our thing?
I give you one guess.
At Behold Creators.
It's a good guess. Nah, it would be Mama Alma. She sent me a text. She was like, "No R&B today." I was like, "Oh, we got an R&B coming." But anyway, if you're tuning in with us live, engage. Reach out in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, all that good stuff. If you're checking this out pre-recorded at a later time, let us know in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking, feeling, engage with the conversation so we can make this as much of a family conversation as possible. But that being said, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're going to dive a little deeper into the conversation series that we started this past Sunday. Chris talked about, or introed rather, the idea of hidden in plain sight, and we're gonna expand upon that a little bit. Play a little Where's Waldo with the insight on this conversation. So, Chris, what you thinking? What you got going on over there?
Did you do Where's Waldo growing up? Is that a common book?
Love that game. That was we had silent sustained reading, and no one
Yeah.
wanted to read. We wanted to find Where's Waldo, so we would always get the book Where's Waldo. And
We
everyone
did.
just-
Yeah. What about Magic Eye? Do you have that one?
Was that the
No.
one where you put the thing to your face and then like went back and saw the
Yep.
images that?
It's like a 3D image.
Yeah, that was creepy.
What-
Those are on the back of cereal boxes. I
Totally.
wasn't very good at those, but I made it work sometimes.
It's crazy voodoo that they were indoctrinating all us kids with. Yeah, it's good. I like that both those actually are good intros to the topic of things you're looking at. It's right in front of you, but you just haven't learned to see it. And that's part of this whole series we're doing. Another aspect is that the hidden parts of life, the things you're not seeing, are often the most important things. And we tend to focus on the superficial things. So yeah, what's your take on that? Where do you see that true? Like, and maybe in relationships, we've got a couple topics we want to wrestle with, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, where do you see that true? Like, what comes to mind for you when you think about that idea?
Instantly, when you were talking, I was thinking about the difference between explicit and implicit communication. Like, so often people will say things, but they'll mean something else. One example is the very polished, professional disses that you will see often in email, like per my last email.
Totally.
Stuff like that. Super, super hilarious, super interesting. Or, sometimes you'll see individuals who can communicate without using words, right? So anybody else looking has no idea what's going on, but there's so much being shared. It's kind of like hidden in plain sight. So I'm obsessed with implicit communication because I think it's so important and I don't think it gets enough attention. People want, insight to be direct. And I remember being in one class and they were talking about the difference in communication between Western and Eastern like practices. And in the West, we emphasize being able to be direct when we communicate. And in certain Eastern practices, the valued, ability is to decipher what a person's saying without them being direct. And so it's just super interesting. But yeah, that's what came to mind.
That's good. I like the framework, those two poles. I would guess that both frameworks are like a mixture, because even though we're direct in the West, like to what you're saying, the implicit and explicit is so common. Like people say one thing, but they're not really meaning that. Or where I think it's like especially frustrating is when people say they value X, Y, or Z, but their life or their choices don't really match that. You see that in organizations, like all these organizations want to be woke, right? And it's basically the deeper message is you just want people to think you're good enough to get their money. Like it's not. So that's the implicit, or the implicit message in consumer capitalistic culture is money. That's what we care about.
Yep.
But we explicitly say we care about people, which isn't true at the end of the day all the time.
Big facts.
Hannah, I'm guessing you were agreeing with the implicit and explicit thing with the email, like per my last email, like you idiot, why didn't you read that is what you really mean. Why didn't you say it? Just so, yeah. And so think about that in relationships. Like how often have you ever been in a situation where you said something to a person you care about, which isn't actually what you meant?
Oh, 100%. And it's the same thing. You all right? Oh yeah, I'm cool.
Yep.
Cause I tried to like wager, is it worth the energy to unpack everything considering like what situation we're in at the moment? If it is, then I'll share. If it's not, then it's like I'm just gonna throw up. Nah, I'm chilling. Good. So yeah, I'm guilty as charged with that one.
We all do that. And how do we, like, the thing is we all know what it means. Like, so the communication that's hidden in plain sight, we actually get, like, and I wonder what it'd be like if we all actually said what we mean. Like, I don't know. I think we'd be less polite. We'd have less miscommunication, I suppose, but I think we'd just be jerks often. At least be honest.
It would be a crazy transition because, like, I imagine when you're like passing somebody, like I dropped off. I was at the bank, and the teller was like, "Hey, how you doing?" I was like, "Oh, I'm good, chilling. How about yourself?" "Oh, I'm doing pretty good." Like if we unloaded whatever we were going through at that moment, then we couldn't do the thing that we were meant to do. So,
right.
But then when you're between two friends and you're just hanging out and the whole point of you being together is to share, and then you just throw up the I'm good or whatever, then it's all circumstantial.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Seeing lots of Hannah, thank you for hanging with us. I hope you're well, friend. Hope you're having a good Monday.
Dude, who took your headshot main photo? That's an amazing shot. Shout out to the photographer.
That's true. Yeah, so I wonder how much
backlighting though.
We need to learn how to see the thing under the thing, right? In our relationships and stuff, and find the hidden thing. Another area I found this to be like a struggle of mine is just with social media. And before I get into that, Greg has a great profile pic on Facebook, actually. Also, I think it has a similar vibe to it. Some backlighting, some trees. I don't know if that's a barn, Hannah, or a house, but like a building, a structure. I wonder if I can pull your. Can I share that?
The one on Facebook is it was the first picture taken in 2020, and it was at it was a Behold Creators shoot.
Oh, nice.
Blush face. One of my baby bros took it and added that ray of sunshine to it. Well, baby bro got skills with the cameras.
True. Okay. So where I was going was the explicit, the implicit, the hidden, and the plain, and how social media basically only knows the explicit, and often the explicit is purely optics and superficial or whatnot. Like if you've been around Oak Life, you've probably seen that we every so often we'll make a statement on something, and usually it means it bubbles up to our leadership team enough, and we all kind of feel there's some like sense of conviction around an issue. For instance, the events at the Capitol made a statement about that, or what's been happening recently in anti-Asian racist attacks that have been affecting people. We'll like make a statement, and I believe in them. Like as our church, like one of the things I love about our community is I know that when our community, when it gets to that level, it's coming out of a place of depth, and there's like people who care deeply about it and are thinking about it. But I also see the flip side all the time on social media. We can talk as much as we want to, but it doesn't mean we're walking. And so we're kind of in a culture that overvalues, in my opinion, this is just me kind of ranting, overvalues the explicit or the external, the obvious thing, and undervalues the hidden, which is the behind the scenes stuff. And when I think about our church or our community, like the behind the scenes stuff, the relationships that are happening, that are relationships of reconciliation, the people who are giving of their time to like support those who are in a place of struggle or have been marginalized, it's like endless. And so it'd be so easy to like see an Instagram thing or something and be like, assume that there's stuff not happening behind the scenes. And I just think about that with every person. Like you take that and project it out. Like everybody has so much going on that's hidden, and it's so hard to judge people fully, or maybe not even judge, get a sense of who people are and what their life is like, unless you're in a relationship with people. And to get to a point of knowing somebody intimately takes time, and it requires like some hiddenness. It's like you can't market it or sell it or capture it in a photo. So I just worry that like we're focusing on the wrong stuff, that like we think we've checked the box because it's that whole like thoughts and prayers. I actually think thoughts and prayers are wonderful. Like, but if that's where it ends, if a post about thoughts and prayers is where it ends, who cares? Like,
yeah.
And also, isn't it interesting that Jesus says like pray in secret? Like, I wonder if it's better to pray without telling people you're praying for a cause than it is to post it on social media, where it's about making sure people see that you're on the right side of an issue. So I don't know. It's something I think our culture is going to struggle with, because we don't know how to separate ourselves from the external, visible stuff and process and see truth in the hidden things. So I don't know. I ranted a bunch there.
No, that's good, man. That's good. It's specifically with the notion of.
Thank you, Hannah. Sorry, I appreciate that at least somebody hung with me.
She got your back. Hannah got your back. If it's one person to have your back, it's Hannah. That's what's up. In the sharing, I know that a lot of, specifically with the heightened violence towards anti-Asian, especially with the elderly, and it rattles my brain. Like I can't even begin to make sense of like a cause as to why this is happening. But in any event, a lot of my Asian friends that have expressed their feelings with the topic say we need visibility. Any conversation, any type of posting, any type of making this known is appreciated. So on one hand, it's like there is value to keep something kind of at the top of mind, so it doesn't just get like forgotten. But then on the flip side, if all you're doing is just chanting things and there's no relational value, to your point, then it gets weird. So it's like, how do you know when the post is actually like one that's representative of a valid relationship or one that's just seeking attention? I think of, not to get all pastory, but I think of the parable about the wheat and the weeds. And it's like, it's not our job to separate them. Let them grow together. You know, the time of judgment will come to separate the two. Our job is to just let it grow. So that has nothing to do with hidden in plain sight, but
that's true. There's something there that like there's tension, and we don't have to solve it, but we got to be in that tension.
Yeah,
it's good. I want to share a quote I didn't read on Sunday, and get your thoughts on this. Let's see if I can pull this up. Chrome tab. Oh, probably this
one. Boom.
So this is Henry Nouwen. I had two quotes. I I cut a bunch of stuff. I went way too long. I was rambling on Sunday. So sorry, community. Didn't get a lot of sleep the night before, but Henry Nouwen says this: I don't think you'll ever be able to penetrate the mystery of God's revelation in Jesus until it strikes you that the major part of Jesus's life was hidden, and that even public years remained invisible as far as most people were concerned. Whereas the way of the world is to insist on publicity, celebrity, popularity, and getting the maximum exposure. God's preference to work is to work in secret. You must let that mystery of God's secrecy, God's anonymity, seek deeply into your consciousness, because otherwise you're continually looking at it from the wrong point of view. In God's sight, the things that matter seldom take place in public. Maybe while we focus our whole attention on the VIPs and their movements, on peace conferences and protest demonstrations, it's the totally unknown people praying and working in silence who make God save us yet again from destruction.
It's good.
That last line, like, gosh, it's a challenging comment, and it's a way ahead of its time. I think Henry wrote this in like the 80s, before social media and all that. But I think about like our culture, even the demonstrations, which I support generally, like the demonstrations for Black Lives and anti-police brutality, those sorts of things. But what he's saying is like, somehow those things aren't nothing, right? But where God seems to be working is like with the migrant farmer in the Central Valley, who none of us have even thought about. Like somehow that community is bringing us salvation.
Yeah.
In a very real sense too, because while we're out here protesting, which isn't bad, they're working for nothing and sustaining our food economy. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. There's a bunch there. Any thoughts on that quote that stand out to you?
The line, God prefers to work in secret, right? I can't help but think of the saying that the fight is won in the gym long before you dance under those lights. Muhammad Ali said something to that effect. Like, you put in the work when it's just you. And then by the time you get to the public, then you are still just you. And then, or Michael Jordan, where he says, if people like only knew how many shots I missed in relation to the game-winning shot, it's like we have to spend the time. Again, it always goes back to relationships. It goes back to how much time are we going to spend with God when no one's around. That determines how much good we can do when the moment strikes itself. There's another quote that says, we don't rise to the occasion, we fall to our training. So if we haven't spent any time with the thing, like if I'm all, Black Lives Matter this, Black Lives Matter that, and then I hang out with some people and I don't have any relational connection to anyone in the Black community, like how is that going to look, right? So, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yep. And
always goes back to fighting for me.
That's fine. That's a good metaphor for a lot of things. But to your point that like, those are the things that actually are transformative. Like the relationships across cultural, racial lines that are reconciling, that bring justice and reflect the kingdom. Like, and those it would cheapen them. It would exploit them. It would become something different if we like put those out on stage. Like, hey, check out this week. Like, look at this great relationship between a white person and a Black person. Aren't we awesome? Like, oh, that's not what it's about. Like,
right.
See, to your point, yeah, if you're out here saying Black Lives Matter, but get no connection to the community. Yep. I think about going back to your post on implicit, explicit paradigm in church culture. I think about that with church budgets a lot. Like, that's a good way to see what do you actually value. This is where we don't talk a ton about money at Oak Life. There's a lot of people who have had really terrible experiences with churches. And but that said, Jesus talked a lot about money because it showed where our priorities are, where we put our security. Like, is it on our own stuff? And if you do that exercise also with church budgets, Like, where does your budget go? Like, is it on caring for the poor? Is it on, like, you say you value these things, but does it match up? And to some degree, I can't really know if you value those things until I hang out with you for a while to really know. Like, it's more of a hidden thing. And so we're quick to, like, I know it's so cliche, but to judge a book by its cover and then make an assumption. This is another story. There's this wonderful organization called Church Clarity that was started with the hopes of getting churches to own up to their stance on LGBT plus inclusion and women in ministry, which came a little bit later, because a lot of churches had ambiguous stances. Like, hey, where do you stand? You say everybody's welcome here, but like, would they be able to serve, or would you officiate a wedding, or could they do childcare? Like, and that ambiguity caused a lot of pain for people. So they started this organization where they give everybody a score. Now, if you know anything about Oak Life is pretty much from the jump in like a community that is trying to be inclusive with, specifically to our LGBT plus siblings. And so initially they saw us just on our website as like not affirming, or I forget what the category was. Maybe not, it wasn't not affirming, but like unclear. And I remember being irked, being like, I get what you all are doing and I 100% support it. But if you hang out with us for like one Sunday, and so I get the tension of it too. Like, I do it when people move to other cities and they ask, like, Chris, do you have any like references of churches in Missoula, Montana? Like, I'll go stalk a website, like a church website, and there is a lot you can tell. Like, okay, this is checks these boxes and they're part of this denomination and so forth. And you can assume there is some that comes with that. So there's tension there, and that's where the not focusing too much on one or the other would be a big thing. To your point earlier of like, well, if you support the Asian community on your own life, but you're not taking a stand explicitly, there's moments where you need to, like, yeah. So it's a both and. Yeah. Gosh dang it. How much of our spirituality in our lives are not black and white?
But everyone wants it. Everyone wants it to be black and white. Everyone wants it to be right and wrong. Everyone wants it to be easy and tangible so they don't have to think about it. What's so funny is that we spend so much time at Oak Life talking about the importance of relationships, yet the importance of relationships is still an aspect that's hidden in plain sight. I was one of my forum conversations this past week was talking about, hey, so if there's an individual who wants to practice their religion kind of in secret, but they don't want to be a part of the broader body, like, what do you say to them, or how do you handle that situation? And this fact and that fact and this theologian and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, well, it really depends on how much time I've spent with this person. Da, 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 da. And everybody in the class was like, oh wow, that's so good, Greg. And I'm like, yeah, it's about relationships first, dude. You can't. But we know that up here, but it's just harder to practice. So sometimes we'll just default to the thing that's easier in relationships, which is the explicit. Yeah.
True.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So BT Dubs, I owe all of my academic and scholarly success to Oak Life. So if you're watching, thank you.
I think Hannah, agrees with you. We don't want to put in the time, intention, vulnerability in relationships.
It's hard, man.
Yep. It is hard. And again, you can't measure it. It's not something you can hold. It's like, yeah. Maybe one of the questions, well, there's probably a lot of questions to process there, but what are our lessons for today, Greg? Where do we land on? What are some of the...
So we talked about the aspects of our relational dynamics that are hidden, and clearly there's this call to spend time in the harder aspects, spend time in the quiet. And I think that relationship is both the vertical one and the horizontal one. Like, where can we spend more time hidden with God? Not out praying in public or praying for friends. That's good too. But where can we do more of that? Like, I'm just going to think about someone I love and chat with God about said person, or with my relationship with God. And then secondary. Like, where can we just increase one dial more of that time intentionality with someone that we know and love? If we care about a person, let's take that extra step. It's not easy because we're all operating from like, positions of scarcity and just being tired. But that call will lead to some good stuff.
It's good. And maybe we should post on social media less.
I thought you was going to say maybe we should post on social media about it. I was going to laugh. That would have been pretty good, though.
Yeah. That's basically what we're doing right now. Like, so we're having a conversation that's a relationship, but ultimately, yeah, it's not as, can't parse it out as cleanly.
Yeah.
It's good.
Good, man. It's good. So that's my takeaway. You got a takeaway?
Yeah, no, just everything you said.
I always steal my stuff, Chris.
Can't help it. It's good stuff.
Oh man, I'm teasing.
Well, Hannah, thanks for hanging with us, and whoever else is watching, we love you. Thanks for checking in. We'll be back to 2:00 next week.
Yeah, that's it. So go love somebody. Go spend some time in the quiet, hidden, but intentional. Continue to live, love, fight, and follow, fam. Peace.
Talk to him. I ain't got a hope.
I ain't got it.